Sean ran away from the wedding. He said, "You're always pushing me. I just want to catch my breath." When I was hospitalized due to a miscarriage, he was watching the sunset in the northwest with his first love. Under the setting sun, they were kissing freely, and he wrote, "When young, one loves to chase dreams, but when grown up, one has to face reality eventually." Then he told me, "I'll be back soon." His first love was his dream, and I was the reality he had to face. He came back, but I didn't want him anymore. Sean's running away from the wedding was so sudden that no one was prepared. I managed to hold myself together to see off the guests and handle the follow-up matters. After everything was over, Sean's mother was crying her eyes out and scolding him in front of me. I listened to her scolding with a smile on my face and then comforted her softly, "It's okay, Mom. When he comes back, we'll ask him what happened." No one could get in touch with Sean. I started making phone calls in the afternoon. It wasn't until the 100th call that he finally answered. Rarely, I got a little angry. "Sean, where are you? Do you know today is our wedding day?" Sean was silent for a long time before he said, "I know." "Then what are you doing?" He cursed and said excitedly, "What the hell do you think I'm doing? I just want to catch my breath. You guys are driving me crazy. Are you that desperate to get married?" I couldn't believe he would say such things. "It was you who proposed to me." Sean fell silent. I blinked my sore eyes. "Let's not argue on the phone. When will you be back?" "1 month. Give me 1 month." "Okay." He hung up the phone without hesitation. My mood didn't calm down. My chest was heaving violently, filled with all kinds of complicated emotions. It wasn't until I stood up that I felt my underwear was wet. I went to the toilet and saw a scarlet mess. My abdomen was aching. My menstrual cycle had always been regular, but it was late this month. I thought it was because I was too busy, but today it just didn't feel right. A guess flashed through my mind, so I simply went to the hospital for an examination. The result came out. I was pregnant. I wanted to tell Sean. Phone call, in progress. WeChat, exclamation mark. He had actually blocked me. My heart was stinging with pain. It was also at this time that I saw Lola's WeChat moments. Welcoming an old friend. In the attached photo, the corner of a black windbreaker was visible. If you know a person extremely well, you can recognize them at a glance with just a tiny clue. Sean had gone to see Lola. Lola was Sean's first love. I was an orphan girl taken in by their family, living a life of depending on others. I was always on tenterhooks, trying to please everyone. Sean didn't like me. He told me to stay away from him at school. No one at school knew about our relationship. Sean wasn't a low-key person, though. He was openly dating Lola. However, both of them were among the top students in their grade, so the teachers just turned a blind eye. Their relationship eventually came to an end. Because Sean's mother discovered the affair between Lola's mother and Uncle Sean. During that time, Auntie and Uncle were always arguing, and once they even got into a fight. I got my head broken when I was trying to stop them. They stopped briefly and glared at each other in silence. I went to the hospital alone to get examined and bandaged. As time passed, the matter gradually faded away. They seemed to have regained their affection for each other. Only the grades of Lola and Sean were affected. Finally, one went to the far north and the other stayed in the south. Auntie asked me to take care of Sean. I also stayed in the south. Sean still didn't like me. More accurately, he seemed to dislike me. But I didn't take it to heart. The turning point came in our junior year. Sean's mother broke her leg, and I deliberately took a half-month leave to take care of her. Sean only came once. He leaned against the hospital corridor, looked at me deeply, sighed, and said, "Thank you." I hung my head. It's what I should do. After my parents died, I was like a bouncing ball, being kicked around by relatives. It was my mother's girlhood best friend who took me in, giving me a place to live. I should be grateful. So when Auntie asked me if I was willing to marry Sean, I blushed and said, "It depends on Sean." Then he proposed to me. He would pick me up from work with a bunch of pink roses, saying that I was as gentle and quiet as they were. He would suddenly lean on my shoulder, saying that it would be romantic to grow old together like this. Sean made me believe that he really liked me. Later, he ran away from the wedding. With Lola. I saw a completely different Sean in Lola's WeChat moments. He seemed to be full of vitality. They would drive an off-road vehicle, speeding across the endless desert, chasing the rising sun. They would also cheer for the little grass that sprang up from the dry cracks in the rocks. All of this was so full of life and touching. On the last day, they quietly waited for the sunset in the northwest. I only saw their long shadows under the setting sun, clinging tightly to each other. It was as if their world consisted of only each other. I saw this WeChat moments post while waiting for the red light, and I was so stunned that I didn't manage to avoid the black car that rushed towards me when the light turned red. The violent impact took away my consciousness. All I felt was pain. Pain that was indescribable, from the inside out. When I woke up in the hospital, it was already the next evening. The setting sun slanted in through the unclosed curtain and fell right on my stomach. I felt empty. The doctor also informed me of the sad news: the baby was gone. It came suddenly and left in a hurry. I didn't even know where to direct my sadness, just blankly staring at my flat stomach. The nurse brought me my phone. It was much tougher than the baby. It wasn't broken. As soon as I unlocked it, a message popped up on the screen. Sean said, "I'll be back soon." Yeah, it had been a month. He had just posted a WeChat moments 5 minutes ago. When young, one loves to chase dreams, but when grown up, one has to face reality eventually. This past month, he had a wonderful and bizarre dream with his beloved. In this dream, there was no me. Nor was there the baby who had left no trace in the world. When the dream ended, he remembered there was such a me. But I didn't want him anymore. I didn't want to experience that kind of pain again. I had already taken leave from the company. I turned off my phone and didn't answer anyone's calls. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. On the 3rd day, I packed my things and left the hospital on my own. I was stopped when I was passing through the corridor. A friend of Sean's blocked my way. "Sister-in-law, what are you doing in the hospital? Sean's been looking for you like crazy." He was about to call Sean. I stopped him. "No need to call. I'm just about to go back." Ryan then put down his phone. I saw the girl behind him. This was the gynecology floor. I had heard that he had a girlfriend studying in Germany, and they were engaged. His girlfriend should still be abroad. Ryan grinned sheepishly. "This is my sister. She's not feeling well. I'm being a good guy and accompanying her to have a look." "Sister-in-law, what are you doing here?" I said blandly. "I have irregular periods." He looked embarrassed. "Then take care and rest. We'll leave now." Ryan dragged the girl away. I watched their backs and suddenly a phrase popped into my mind: birds of a feather flock together. I got back to the wedding house at 9 o'clock in the evening. Both Sean and Sean's mother were there, and they started blaming me as soon as they opened their mouths. Sean's mother had a solemn face. "Yvonne, even if you're angry with Sean, you shouldn't just disappear without a word." A faint sense of tiredness rose in my heart, and I didn't tell them about the car accident. I nodded. "I'm sorry." Sean's mother's complexion improved then. She pulled me to the living room, pushed me beside Sean, and said to herself, "Since you're both back, I'll ask someone to recalculate a wedding date. This time, there can't be any accidents." No one said a word. Sean's mother glanced at me first and then glared at Sean with a veiled reproach. "You brat, did you hear that? Even if you have pre-wedding jitters, you can't just run away from the wedding. Have you ever thought about how embarrassing it is for me and Yvonne? Grow up already. You're an adult now." Sean clicked his tongue and reluctantly said, "I got it. There won't be any accidents this time." Satisfied, Sean's mother beamed and said, "Preferably this month, but at the latest next month. This matter can't be dragged out, or things might change." There was an implication in her words. Sean's eyes darkened. And I, throughout the whole process, didn't even have a chance to speak, like a puppet that only needed to obey and didn't need to be consulted. I seemed to be back to the time when the college entrance examination results came out. Sean's mother pulled me into the room and said, Yvonne, Auntie knows you're excellent, but your Sean brother is so disobedient. Auntie wants you to keep an eye on him in college so that he won't be pestered by dubious people. Sean's mother wanted Sean to stay in the South. That meant I had to stay too. Of course I was reluctant. Auntie, I want to go to Peking University. Sean's mother fell silent and just kept stroking my hand. A few minutes later, she suddenly burst into tears. Xiaolin passed away so early. You were only in the second year of junior high school back then, right? You were so young. Sean's father didn't want me to take you in. He thought you were a burden. But I think you look so much like Xiaolin. Your mother and I grew up together. I couldn't bear to see you suffer, so I brought you home despite everyone's opposition. Auntie really regards you as her daughter. The kindness of raising me was like a mountain, weighing on my back. I couldn't straighten up or catch my breath. I lowered my head and let that teardrop fall on my knee. Auntie, I'll do as you say. When I first came to the Shen family, Auntie seemed to really like me wholeheartedly. She decorated my room according to my hobbies and bought me many beautiful clothes. I used to have nightmares all the time, dreaming about the scene of my parents' car accident. She slept with me for half a month. I thought her embrace was the warmest place back then, with the smell of a mother. But later, I became a string in her hand to tie Sean down. I didn't need to have my own thoughts, just obedience. I'm really so tired. I blinked my dry eyes and said, Auntie. Before the wedding, she asked me to call her Mom, saying that we would be a family from then on. Today, I just couldn't bring myself to call her that. I want to divorce Sean. The living room was dead silent. Then, Sean exploded, Yvonne, what do you mean? I looked straight at him, literally what it means. I want to divorce you. You should be able to understand. Damn it. Sean gasped for a few breaths and kicked the coffee table hard. His handsome face was slightly distorted. You guys say get married, then say don't get married. Are you playing me like a dog? I frowned. I didn't know what he meant by that. Have you lost your memory? It was you who proposed to me. It was you who proposed to me. Sean sneered. If it weren't for my mother crying, making a scene, and threatening to kill herself, do you think I'd be willing to propose to you? Isn't this what you guys wanted to see? Oh. So that's how it was. My temples throbbed with pain. I took a deep breath. Well, it's just as well. Anyway, you don't like me. And I can't tolerate my husband running away from the wedding and then wandering around the world with his first love. That's really romantic, but that romance doesn't belong to me. Sean immediately understood what I meant. A hint of guilt flashed through his eyes, quickly followed by anger. You were stalking me? I thought he would at least feel a bit guilty towards me. I overestimated him. I took out my phone and opened Lola's WeChat moments. They had been like a couple of fugitives in love this past month, living each day as if it were the last, with great intensity. I don't know why Lola didn't block me, and I don't care either. Sean's eyes shrank when they landed on my phone screen. He was like a balloon full of air that had been pricked with a small hole and instantly deflated. His face turned livid. How did you get her WeChat? Sean has a short memory. Or rather, he simply doesn't have me in his eyes. So he doesn't know that in high school, Lola and I represented the school in a biology competition together. We had quite a few interactions back then, so it's perfectly normal to have each other's contact information. I didn't answer his question and turned to Sean's mother. This time, I want to live for myself, Auntie. I hope you can understand. Sean's mother's eyes were fixed on my phone screen. That face, she would never forget. The next second, she was overcome with anger and screeched. Why are you getting involved with her again? Are you trying to drive me crazy? Her mother almost stole your father. Are you going to elope with the daughter of a mistress? Sean had extraordinary psychological resilience and had already regained his composure. The problems of our parents' generation have nothing to do with her. She's innocent. Sean's mother gasped for breath and said, I'll never let her into our family. Give up on that idea. He subconsciously glanced at me and said, I don't plan to be with her. We're just friends. She accompanied me to have fun for a month. The daughter of a mistress is so cheap. She must have seduced you. I'll settle the score with her. How could Sean stand hearing others insult his beloved like that? His face changed, and he sneered. If Lola is cheap, then who isn't? Yvonne? How is Yvonne inferior to Lola? I was like a piece of meat on the chopping board, being compared by them to see which one was fresher and tastier. Sean looked at me and said word by word, Lola is kinder, stronger, braver, and more interesting than Yvonne. Oh, right. There is one thing, Lola is a bit inferior to Yvonne. Lola wouldn't be like a certain tattletale who never grows up and uses others' secrets as a tool to please people. I looked back at him and said firmly, Sean, you have no right to compare me with others, nor do you have the right to slander me. Sean twitched his lips in disdain. What? Wasn't it you who told on me about my relationship with Lola in high school? Wasn't it you who eavesdropped on the affair between Lola's mother and my father and then told my mother? We had planned to stop them back then, but you ruined everything. He meant that instead of blaming the father who had an affair during marriage or Lola's mother who knew she was the other woman but still got involved, I was the one to blame? How ironic. But I said firmly. I didn't say it. I didn't say anything. Because I didn't know anything about it. I did have a crush on Sean for a while. Back then when I first came to the Shin family. An excellent and good-looking older brother who cared for you gently and considerately. It was the most natural thing for a young heart to be smitten. But I don't know, since when he had become more and more impatient with me. He wouldn't let me call him a brother, and snarled that he was an only child and I was just an orphan taken in by their family. He would scold me for being stupid when I asked him questions and told me to look it up online myself. Finally, he wouldn't let me greet him at school. I don't like to be nice to someone who is cold to me, so my feelings for him gradually faded. Sean and Lola started dating in the second year of high school. At that time, a transfer student came to our class and sat next to me. Chase was talkative and annoying. I spent all my free time dealing with him. How could I have the time to pay attention to Sean and Lola's school romance? By the time I knew what had happened, Sean's mother and uncle had already been arguing at home for half a month. Stupid as I was, it was only now that I realized that a basin of dirty water had been poured on me for nearly 10 years, and my husband, even though we were together day and night, didn't believe me and never even asked me a single question. He had already decided in his heart that it was I who had tattled behind his back. To be honest, it was a bit embarrassing. Sean was stunned for quite a while before he suddenly looked at Sean's mother. Sean's mother slapped her thigh and burst into tears. I was afraid you'd blame me, so I said it was Yvonne who said it. Mom was about to lose your father back then. I couldn't afford to lose you too. Sean pursed his lips as if he wanted to say something. In the end, he didn't say anything and left, slamming the door behind him, leaving Sean's mother sitting on the sofa in a daze. I stepped forward to comfort her. However, she pushed my hand away, her eyes full of resentment. It's all your fault. If you hadn't said anything, this would have been over. I stared blankly at my empty palm. If I hadn't been worried that Sean would go to that slut's daughter after graduating from college with his wings fully grown, why would I have set you two up? You're such a disappointment. You can't even keep a man. I've raised you for nothing. My eyes welled up with tears. I didn't want to cry in front of her. But at that moment, I couldn't hold back anymore. Looking at her with teary eyes, I said, Auntie, how much more? Sean's mother was stunned. How much what? How much more money do I need to pay to break off the debt of your kindness in raising me? She fell silent. I went back to the room to pack my things. This was the wedding house they bought for Sean. Since I had made up my mind to get a divorce, this place no longer belonged to me. I didn't have many things, just a few clothes, which could be packed into a small suitcase. Seeing that I was serious, Sean's mother followed me, constantly saying, Ungrateful wretch. If it weren't for me, could you have gone to high school? Could you have gone to college? I let out a sigh and walked out of the house. Before closing the door, I nodded to Sean's mother. Auntie, come to me when you've figured it out. Goodbye. And, thank you. The elevator cut off the rest of her words. I leaned against the elevator, and my face was reflected in the mirror. I looked so tired, with several abrasions on my forehead from the car accident. From start to finish, no one mentioned it, no one cared. Even less did anyone ask, "What happened to you?" The woman in the mirror pursed her lips. Finally, she held back her tears. "I checked into a hotel first. I rented it for half a month short term and would look for a place near the company later. In the middle of the night, Sean called me. He seemed to be drunk, speaking in a slurred manner, murmuring my name. I sat up and turned on the bedside lamp. "What do you want to say? If it's not about the divorce, I don't think there's any need for us to be in contact." Sean kept repeating, "Divorce, divorce." Just as I was about to hang up, he suddenly said harshly, "Yvonne, you're so cruel. You aborted our child. If Ryan hadn't told me, were you planning to keep it from me for the rest of your life? A vicious woman like you will never have children of your own in the future. You'll have no relatives in the world." His words were like thousands of sharp arrows, piercing my heart. The darkness of the night seeped in through the window, pressing down on me. Endless blackness. In an instant, the pain made it hard for me to breathe. At this moment, someone snatched the phone from him. Ryan quickly said, "Sister-in-law, don't take it to heart. Sean's drunk. You two are husband and wife. You'll make up after a quarrel. There's nothing that can't be overcome. Come and pick him up tonight. Go home and have a good chat." I hung up the phone expressionlessly and blocked this number. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the city was still awake. Tall buildings stood everywhere, with bright lights and bustling nightlife. I was driving on a road with few cars. The lights on both sides gradually faded. Above the dark and undulating sea, a lonely moon was hanging in the sky. It had been a long, long time since I last saw the stars. The lonely moon was reflected on the seashore, as if calling out to me. I took off my shoes and walked towards it step by step. The seawater was freezing cold, seeping through my clothes, and it felt as if my blood had been frozen. Sean was right. I had no relatives left in the world. I couldn't hold on to anyone who loved me or whom I loved. With my chest soaked in the seawater, I could smell the strong stench of the sea. In my ears, it seemed that someone was calling my name. Was it Chase? That day, when I was trying to stop the fight, I got my head broken by the ashtray thrown by Uncle Shen. Drops of blood fell on my white school uniform. I went to the hospital alone to deal with the wound. It hurt so much that I called Chase. When I walked out of the hospital, I bumped into him, sweating all over. Chase was usually like a monkey, laughing and making a fuss, carefree. That day, he held my hand and crouched on the roadside, crying bitterly. "Yvonne, I wish you'd just die of the pain." I comforted him with a smile. "It doesn't hurt." He wiped away his tears and glared at me. "You're really like a cockroach that can't be killed." Later, he helped me apply medicine every day. When the sun was setting, we hid in a corner of the playground. He asked me if I wanted to go to college in the north. "You have good grades. You can go to Peking University to study botany. I'll be right next to you. We can go out and play together every day." I joked. "What if you bring my grades down?" Chase got angry, but only for 2 seconds. "Don't worry. I'll definitely study hard." He rested his head on my calf. "Let's stay away from these people here, okay, Yvonne?" His eyes were so clear and beautiful. Looking at me with those eyes, how could I not agree? Okay. In the end, I didn't keep my promise. After I told Chase that I would stay in the South to go to college, he hung up the phone and didn't contact me for a long time. When we got in touch again, he told me that he was going to study abroad. "Yvonne, you're a liar. You're just like her, a big liar. I'll never talk to you again." How childish Chase was. His mental age seemed to be stuck in the 3rd grade of primary school. His father had an affair during marriage, and his mother tricked him into getting a toy. The moment he turned around, his mother jumped. Chase picked up the toy and turned around to see blood all over the ground. I didn't want Chase to stop talking to me. Later, I'd rather he didn't talk to me than see him get on that plane. On my birthday in my freshman year, I used the money from my part-time job to buy myself a cake. I brought it back to the dormitory and shared it with my roommates. After eating and having fun, I hid alone on the balcony, staring at my phone absent-mindedly. I was waiting for a call from the other side of the ocean. I didn't get the call but received a timed message instead. Little liar, no one's with you on your birthday, right? Serves you right. Who told you to lie to me? Humph, come and pick me up. When you see this message, I'll be at the airport in half an hour. Attached was a photo of an airline ticket. I was stunned as if struck by lightning. According to the news report, that plane disappeared not long after taking off. I rushed to the airport and waited anxiously with the other people waiting to pick up passengers. That night, we were all like ants on a hot pan, being tortured by the fire. We waited for several months, but no news came. How I wished to see Chase jump out and scold me, little liar. But it was just a wild wish. The plane disappeared, but the pain in the hearts of those waiting grew deeper. My nose was immersed in the water. The seawater rushed into my nostrils, and the feeling of suffocation was always there. At this moment, a big wave came. The moment it touched my body, it turned into gentle water waves, like a big hand, pushing me onto the shore. I sat on the beach, with seawater pouring out of my nostrils and mouth. The seawater waves slapped against my ankles one after another. It seemed as if someone was saying, "Stay away. A little further. Even further." I murmured, "Mom, were they protecting me?" I sat blankly on the beach. Slowly, I came to my senses. How silly it was to try to kill myself just because of someone else's words. If I died, what would happen to those who had passed away? Would anyone still remember them? Death is not the end. Forgetting is. I will carry the memories of them and live bravely. It was already morning when I returned to the hotel. I took a shower, dried my hair, and had breakfast. By then, it was 10 o'clock. I followed Sean and searched through Ryan's various social media accounts. In the comments under one of his video apps, I locked onto a German IP. "Are you Ryan's girlfriend?" At 12 o'clock noon, she replied, "Yes." "Who are you? What do you want?" I didn't tell her my identity. Instead, I told her what I saw in the gynecology department that day. Everyone who does wrong should get their due, right? The girl seemed quite shocked. She only said 10 minutes later, "Thank you. I'll look into it." All I needed to do was to let her know. As for how she would look into it and what she planned to do after finding out, it was none of my business. I went back to work as usual. On the first day, I ran into an unexpected visitor downstairs. I got straight to the point. "You've come to discuss the divorce with me, right?" Sean looked like he hadn't slept well last night. He was listless, with dark circles and bruises under his eyes. He took out a piece of paper and said dejectedly, "I received this today." I glanced at it. Oh, it was my traffic accident confirmation statement. I took it. "If you just came to deliver this, then thank you. Please consider the divorce matter as soon as possible." I walked past him. Suddenly, Sean grabbed my hand, his expression pained. "I'm sorry, Yvonne. I didn't know." "Didn't know what?" I tilted my head to look at him. "Didn't know why you cursed me as being vicious and said that I would never have children of my own? Or didn't know why you had to reopen my old wounds and repeatedly tell me that I was an orphan?" The pain in his eyes grew deeper as he said with difficulty, "I didn't know it was because of the car accident that you lost the baby. I shouldn't have said those things to you. This matter really needed to be talked about properly." I took him to a quiet coffee shop. After sitting down, I said, "Just saying sorry isn't enough. Agreeing to the divorce would be the best apology gift you could give me." Sean stared at me fixedly and slowly shook his head. "Yvonne, I don't want a divorce. I think I like you." He got more and more excited as if he had really convinced himself. "Yes, I love you. Let's live a good life together from now on, okay? I'll plan the next wedding, and you can just be a beautiful bride." I looked at him in shock. I wanted to laugh. It was so ironic. I didn't manage to laugh. I just stiffly twitched the corners of my mouth and said softly, don't love me anymore, Sean. This love was too late and too cheap. I didn't believe it. You love me, so you ran away from the wedding, leaving me alone to endure everyone's strange looks. You love me, so you hid it from me and went traveling in the Northwest with Lola for a month. You love me, so you thought it was me who tattled. You never believed in me. In your heart, I was a tattletale. I said weakly, Sean, I've seen how you loved Lola, so I know that what you feel for me isn't love. I had seen how he loved Lola. Lola was very headstrong, always coming up with new ideas on a whim. Sean completely tolerated her headstrong ways. Even though he was a good student, he was willing to skip classes to accompany her on her birthday. Lola didn't like the coriander in her bowl but liked the coriander flavor. Every time, she would stir it up and ask him to pick it out. He was a bit of a germaphobe, but he always did what she wanted. Even after they broke up, Sean would never forget her birthday and would send her birthday presents every year. I knew what his love was like. Sean grabbed my hand, seemingly eager to make me believe in his sincerity. Yvonne, I'm sincere. Running away from the wedding was my mistake. I was just too nervous. I didn't think it clearly. At that time, Lola was also going to travel in the Northwest. I just regarded her as a friend and thought we could travel together, so I went with her. It's all in the past between me and her. During the 2 days after I came back, I couldn't find you anywhere. Only then did I realize how much I hoped to see you and how much I hoped to form a family with you. There wasn't a word of truth in his mouth. I let out a sigh. Friends who can kiss? You two must have a really good relationship then. Sean was stunned for a moment. No, he wanted to argue. Well, those were just two very close shadows, which could easily be explained as an optical illusion. I didn't give him a chance to argue. I pulled up a sad smile. I was waiting for the red light. I was distracted by seeing Lola's WeChat Moments post and didn't manage to avoid the car that ran the red light. The baby was gone that day. Actually, I had wanted to tell you about its existence long ago, but you blocked me. Sean, you blocked me. It was you who personally cut off the chance for you to have even a little interaction with the baby when it still existed. I stared into his eyes, not allowing him to dodge at all. I watched as the light in his eyes dimmed little by little. Sean murmured, it was me. I killed our baby. I nodded, yes, it was you. He was silent for a long time. Finally, just before my patience ran out, he agreed to the divorce. On the divorce agreement, Sean gave me almost everything he could. I accepted it all. During the cooling off period of the divorce, he harassed me with phone calls in the middle of the night. I had taken him out of the blacklist a few days ago for the convenience of handling the divorce matters. Now I regretted it. Deeply regretted it. I put him back on the blacklist again. Unexpectedly, he used Ryan's phone to call me, and the first thing he said was, Yvonne, I'm sorry. Ryan took the phone and said disapprovingly, Sister-in-law, Sean has already realized his mistake. Can't you forgive him just this once? I simply said, don't call me sister-in-law. And, no, I can't. Sean didn't do anything extremely evil, right? For couples, it's normal to have quarrels and then make up. My girlfriend and I have broken up and gotten back together so many times over the years, and we're still engaged, aren't we? A look of sarcasm appeared on my face. Subconsciously, I wanted to say, so you repay her by cheating on her? I was afraid of ruining other people's plans, so I swallowed the words that were on the tip of my tongue and put him on the blacklist too. After that, I ignored all the calls from unknown numbers. Finally, Sean calmed down. Finally, the day to get the divorce certificate arrived. The sun was shining brightly, just like my mood. When signing, Sean was so slow that it really got on my nerves. I urged, could you hurry up? Will you never talk to me again after this? Afraid that he would go back on his word, I said gently, how could that be? We can still be friends after the divorce. Sean finally signed his name. I cursed in my heart, bullshit friends. Before parting, he asked if he could give me a hug. I shook my head, sorry, no. I'm not familiar with you. His eyes reddened, Yvonne, did you ever like me? His question caught me off guard. I thought about it carefully. Yes, I had liked him. It wasn't the secret crush during my teenage years. It was the daily interaction after entering society. His hypocritical tenderness had warmed me for a moment. But later I found out that he wasn't worthy of my love. So I said, no, I was just repaying Auntie's kindness in raising me. Sean cried. I didn't feel sorry for him, nor did I pay any attention to him. I got into the car and drove away. In the evening, I called Sean's mother to inform her of my divorce from Sean and told her an unfortunate thing: he gave me all the joint property of the couple. Sean's mother was instantly angry and ranted on, from calling me an ungrateful wretch to saying that she shouldn't have brought me home in the first place. I patiently listened to her until she finished. This could no longer stir up any ripples in my heart. After she quieted down, I said, I can give them back to you, but from now on, I'll have no relationship with you or the Shin family. Sean's mother was more than happy to hear that. I asked her to write a handwritten proof, and then I went to get it. I put down the property I got from Sean and regained my freedom. Sean's mother sneered. If Xiaolan knew, I interrupted her, if my mother knew, she would be happy for me. My feelings for Sean's mother were complicated. In my mother's words, Sean's mother was gentle and loyal. But later, her unfaithful husband and unreasonable son had driven her to this state. Anyway, there would be no more contact from now on. After finishing the project at hand, I submitted my resignation. My boss offered me a high salary to persuade me to stay. I told her, I want to pursue a doctoral degree. She was stunned, and all her words turned into a single blessing. Wish you success, Comrade Yvonne. Thank you. I gave her a hug. She was a good mentor in my work, and I had learned a lot from her. It took me half a year to prepare and submit all the application materials to Peking University. In January, I passed the initial review and flew to Beijing to prepare for the re-examination. On the day of the re-examination, it happened to be snowing in Beijing. Pure white snowflakes were falling from the sky and landing on my face. They were icy cold and quickly melted by my hot face. The remaining snow covered the ground with a layer of purity. I looked up at the sky and murmured to myself, Chase, the snow in Beijing is so beautiful. When the results of the re-examination came out, my name appeared on the proposed admission list of the College of Life Sciences at Peking University, and I started a new journey. The past 10 years seemed to have been separated by a heavy snowfall. It was like a dream. Yvonne divorced him. He knew he deserved it. He had just been taking advantage of Yvonne's kindness to him. He had originally thought that he didn't love her. But during the 2 days after he came back, he couldn't find Yvonne anywhere. He felt like he was going to go crazy. During the days when they were together day and night, she had quietly entered his heart like rain moistening things without a sound. It was just that in front of his mother, he was used to pretending not to care. He didn't want his mother to think that he was being controlled. After leaving Yvonne, Sean was living a miserable life. He was muddled and couldn't find the meaning of life. Yvonne was different. He knew that she was pursuing a doctoral degree at Peking University. She had always been so capable that she could achieve whatever she wanted to do. Wasn't that the reason why he had rejected her when he was young? He thought that she had taken away his mother's love and was jealous that she was better than him in almost every aspect except physics. It was so childish and ridiculous. In the first month after Yvonne went to Beijing, Ryan was caught in bed with another woman by his fiancée. Sean guessed that it was Yvonne who had told on him. He had warned Ryan that he would get into trouble sooner or later if he kept playing like this. Ryan didn't listen and shouted, "My body belongs to the hot chicks, but my heart only belongs to my fiancé." Sean said that Ryan would regret it. Ryan even laughed at him. "Sean, I'm not going to run away from my wedding." Ryan didn't even have the chance to run away from his wedding. His fiancée Quinn took pictures of him in bed with the other woman and sent them to the family group, and then cancelled the engagement. Quinn was just like that, decisive and resolute. Most of the rich second-generation kids around went abroad to study just to get a degree, but she plunged into her studies in Germany and got a doctorate. Ryan went to Germany to look for Quinn and even got his head broken by her new boyfriend. Sean thought he deserved it. In the second year after Yvonne left, his father got divorced and remarried Lola's mother. Lola also came back. It was so embarrassing. He and Lola suddenly became brother and sister. The heart that had once been stirred under the setting sun was as calm as still water. He even resented Lola occasionally. If it weren't for her, Yvonne wouldn't have left him. Their baby wouldn't have had that accident either. His mother had been making a fuss from before the divorce until after it. Later, she even gave an interview, bitterly scolding Sean's father and Lola's mother. After all, Sean's father was a somewhat well-known entrepreneur. After the interview, their whole family became a joke. The father abandoned his wife who had shared his hardships and married a widow. The son ran away from the wedding and traveled with the daughter of a mistress for a month. Who wouldn't say that it was an unethical family? And Yvonne didn't care about any of these. She was completely intoxicated by the wonderful plants in nature.